There's a moment she won't talk about, a feeling she can't name. It starts quietly, maybe a few weeks after things end. She goes about her life like everything's fine. She's laughing, posting, living. But deep down, something feels off. Something's missing. Something's not sitting right, and she can't explain it. Because she doesn't realize it yet. But you've shifted. It's not your absence that haunts her. It's the void you left behind. The psychological vacancy that wasn't there before. You didn't yell. You didn't make a scene. You didn't try to prove anything. You just stopped showing up with the same energy, the same emotion, the same presence. And now, what's haunting her isn't heartbreak. It's confusion. She doesn't know why she feels it. This is what happens when a man truly detaches. It's not loud. It's not performative. It's subtle, stoic, silent. But it shakes her in ways she never expected. Because the shift wasn't physical. It was psychological. You didn't just leave. You withdrew everything. Your attention, your affection, your emotional availability. And what's left behind is a silence that echoes in her mind. She'll try to blame it on other things. She'll distract herself. But it won't go away. Because when a man pulls his energy back completely, a woman feels it, before she even realizes what's happening. And by the time she does, it's too late. You're already gone in a way she'll never be able to reach again. If you're done giving her emotional access and ready to reclaim your presence with power, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. She felt the shift. Too late. Now let's begin. Number 1. You're emotionally gone before you physically leave. She thought she ended it. Thought she had the last word, the last move. But what she never saw was that you were already gone. Not physically, not yet. But emotionally, spiritually, you had already checked out. She thought she caught you off guard, but in reality, you were just done pretending to care about something that stopped serving you. See, men don't always leave with a grand exit. Most of the time, the real departure happens in silence, quietly, internally. You stopped fighting for conversations. You stopped chasing clarity. You stopped investing in moments that felt one-sided. And somewhere along the line, the man who used to be all in stopped showing up, not out of spite, not out of weakness, but out of clarity. She didn't notice at first, because she was so used to your presence, your effort, your consistency. But once that effort dried up, once your responses got colder, slower, more distant, something in her started to shift too, not because she wanted to lose you, but because she felt the power dynamics flipping, and she didn't know how to stop it. By the time she pulled the trigger, you had already detached. You didn't argue, you didn't beg, because the truth is, you didn't lose her that day. She lost you weeks ago, when she didn't notice your silence, when she overlooked the moment you went emotionally cold. That's what haunts her now. The realization that when she thought she ended it, the real ending had already happened, and she missed it. Number 2, her control was tied to your reaction. She never needed to beg for your attention because she always had it. Every time she pulled back, you leaned in. When she got cold, you tried harder. When she gave you silence, you filled it. That was her control, your reaction. And as long as she could predict it, she felt powerful, secure, in charge. But then something shifted. You stopped reacting, stopped chasing, stopped responding to her energy like a trained reflex, and in that moment, the entire structure of control collapsed. She lost grip, not because you became cruel or distant, but because you became unavailable. See, control in relationships often hides behind subtle dynamics. It's not about who talks the most, it's about who controls the frame. And the one who reacts is the one who follows. The moment you stepped out of that role, the balance of power flipped. You didn't raise your voice. You didn't fight for her attention. You simply disengaged. And she felt it immediately, because now she's reaching out into a space where no response comes back. She's sending signals that don't land. She's testing for your presence and getting nothing but quiet stillness in return. And that silence, that unreadability, it's psychological chaos for someone used to control. She never realized how much of her confidence was tied to your reaction until it was gone. Now she's questioning everything, not because you changed overnight, but because you stopped giving her the emotional feedback she depended on to feel powerful. And that shift, that's the part she'll never be able to explain, but she'll always feel. Number 3, she loses the access pass. She didn't just lose the relationship, she lost access. Access to your attention, your energy, your time, and more than anything, access to your heart. That's the part she never expected, because for so long you were open, always there, always reachable. You replied, you cared, you showed up. Even when things were rocky, you were still emotionally available. But now, that pass has been revoked. She doesn't get to casually check in. She doesn't get late-night validation or emotional reassurance when her world starts feeling empty. She reaches out and is met with silence, or worse, neutrality. You're not cold, you're calm, polite, indifferent. And that indifference, that's what slices deeper than anger ever could. See, women remember how you made them feel, especially when they no longer have access to it. She thought the door would stay open, that you'd always be one message away. But now that she feels shut out, she's spiraling. Not because she wants to rebuild, but because she's no longer in control of when and how she interacts with you. And here's what haunts her most. You didn't slam the door. You didn't cause a scene. You just quietly disappeared from her emotional radar. The warmth she once had unrestricted access to, gone. The man who used to overextend himself for her comfort, gone. The access she once took for granted, permanently denied. She thought she could always come back. She never imagined what it would feel like when she no longer had the key. Number 4, she can't read you anymore, expanded. Before, she could read you like a book. She knew what every text meant, what every delay meant, even what your silence meant. She could predict your reactions, feel your emotions before you said a word. That's part of what made her feel powerful. She had access not just to your time, but to your inner world. But now, you're a blank screen. You've gone unreadable, not because you're trying to play games, but because you're no longer projecting. You've pulled your emotions inward. You've stopped leaking your thoughts through over-texting, oversharing, or showing up with your heart on your sleeve. You've replaced emotional expression with emotional discipline. And that quiet control, it's psychological warfare to someone who once fed off your openness. She checks your page. Nothing. She messages you and gets flat, emotionless replies, or none at all. She tries to pick up on your energy, but there's no signal. It's like trying to tune into a frequency that no longer exists. She doesn't know if you're angry, if you've moved on, if you're thriving, or if you simply don't care. And the unknown kills her. People fear what they can't predict. And when a man becomes unreadable, not rude, not reactive, just still, it creates a mental loop that can't be closed. She can't settle the emotional account. She can't get her closure. And worst of all, she can't figure out if you're even thinking about her anymore. You used to be an open book. Now you're a sealed vault. And the more she tries to pry it open, the heavier the silence becomes. Number 5, your absence forces reflection. When you were there, she never had to think too deeply. Your presence gave her comfort. Your energy gave her stability, even when she didn't fully appreciate it. You were the emotional safety net, the one who always showed up, the one who forgave, who explained, who tried. But now, you're gone. And in that vacuum, she starts to feel everything you stopped saying. Your absence isn't just quiet, it's confrontational. Because when you disappear without drama, without begging, without closure, you leave behind something more powerful than words: space. And space forces reflection. It makes her sit with the truth she tried to avoid, the way she treated you, the things she said, the things she didn't say, the imbalance she never questioned when you were still around. At first, she'll distract herself, try to fill the silence, talk to someone new, repost, reconnect, restart, but none of it lands, because the stillness left behind isn't just about loneliness, it's about realization. She's realizing that what she had wasn't normal, that your consistency, your loyalty, your emotional availability, it wasn't weak, it was rare. And now that it's gone, the weight of what she lost starts pressing down in places she didn't expect. That's the haunting part, not the breakup, not the silence, but the realization that you were the anchor and she cut the rope. And once that hits, there's no conversation, no explanation, no apology that will make her feel whole again, because you were never the one she needed to fix. You were the one she took for granted, and now your absence forces her to face that truth alone. Number 6. You become a memory. She can't kill. She'll move on, or at least she'll try. She'll talk to new people, post pictures with forced smiles, act like she's thriving. But behind all that noise, there's something lingering, a presence, a weight. You, not in her inbox, not in her life, but in her mind. And she can't shake it. Because when a man detaches with silence and never looks back, he doesn't become a moment. He becomes a ghost. Not the haunting kind that begs to be seen, but the one that stays in the back of her thoughts, no matter who she's with. You're not showing up at her door. You're not watching her stories. You're not reacting. And that absence, it leaves her questioning everything. She'll try to move past you, replace the feeling, recreate the dynamic. But every connection that follows you feels off, feels hollow, because you didn't just disappear. You left behind a psychological imprint, one she didn't expect, one she didn't want. And now, no matter how loud her life gets, there's a silence underneath it all that sounds like you. You're not texting her, you're not checking in, and the more time passes, the more she realizes she has no way to reach who you were, because that version is gone. And the man you've become? He's not looking back. She'll laugh with someone new and still compare him to your silence. She'll move forward and still carry the memory. You're no longer a person she can message. You've become a standard she can't forget. And the worst part, she doesn't know why. She just knows you live rent-free in the one place she can't block you from, her mind. Number 7, you create a contrast no one else matches. At first, she thought replacing you would be easy. New attention, fresh conversations, that temporary high of feeling wanted again. She assumed all men would act like you, show up, stay consistent, give without hesitation. But now, that illusion is breaking. Because what you brought to the table wasn't normal, it was rare. And without you there, every new interaction just highlights the gap you left behind. See, when a man evolves after heartbreak, when he levels up in silence, detaches without bitterness, and stops chasing, he creates something no rebound can replicate: emotional contrast. She didn't recognize your consistency until she felt inconsistency. She didn't value your calm until she dealt with chaos. She didn't see your depth until she was surrounded by surface-level energy. You didn't become the best by trying to be someone else. You became the best by being authentically grounded, stoic, disciplined, focused. That's what made you unforgettable. And now, every man she talks to feels like a downgrade, because none of them carry that same weight, that same silence, that same certainty. She may never admit it. She might even pretend she's better off. But deep down, she knows. Because when she scrolls through her phone and sees all these shallow connections, there's one name that doesn't show up anymore, but still overshadows everything else. You didn't just leave, you raised the bar. And now, no matter who tries to follow you, the contrast you created is too loud to ignore and too rare to replace. Number 8. Her fantasy of control collapses. She thought she had time, thought she had options, that no matter how things ended, you'd still be there. Not physically maybe, but emotionally. She believed she had control over the narrative, that she could leave, entertain something new, and still keep you in her back pocket. That belief gave her comfort, security, power. But now, that illusion is crumbling, because control isn't real when it's built on someone else's willingness to stay. And you stopped staying. You stopped being predictable. You stopped orbiting her like a safety net. And without that energy, her whole perception of control starts to fall apart. She doesn't say it, but she feels it. She's not in charge anymore, not of the timing, not of your emotions, not of how this story ends. That's the shift she didn't see coming. Not that you left, but that you didn't leave wounded. You walked away clean, quiet, focused, and that quiet exit. That's what shattered her fantasy, because if she truly had control, you'd still be reaching out, still showing signs of struggle. But you're not. You're gone, detached, untouched, and she can't wrap her head around it. Now, everything she thought she could dictate, when you'd come back, how you'd react, whether you'd still care, is gone. And the scariest part for her, she can't fix it, can't flip it, can't undo it. Because the moment a man stops trying to hold on, the illusion that he ever needed her at all ceases to exist. That's what haunts her now, the realization that the control she thought she had was never real. And now that you've walked away without giving her closure, her story has no ending, just echoes. Number 9. Your life continues without her input. She expected to be part of your next chapter, even if it was from a distance. She thought she'd still have a say, still hold space in your mind, still feel her name echo somewhere in your future. That even if things ended, you'd never really move without thinking about her. But now, she's watching something she can't understand, your life unfolding without her input. You're not checking in, not updating her, not asking for her opinion. Your world is in motion and she's not a part of it. And that's not just painful, it's humbling. Because it forces her to realize the influence she once had is completely gone. You don't need her to process anything. You don't need her validation to move forward. You've reclaimed full control of your focus, your routine, your energy. And she's nowhere in that equation. She doesn't get the phone calls anymore, doesn't get to hear about your progress, doesn't know who you're becoming. And what kills her the most? You're not broadcasting it. You're not flaunting your evolution. You're simply living it, quietly, fully, without her. She was used to being the emotional checkpoint, the one who could reach into your day and shift your mood. But now, your life keeps going, with no pause, no flashback, no detour. You didn't just move on, you moved forward without looking back. And that's the shift she can't undo, because while she's busy wondering how you are, where you've gone, and what you're doing, you're too far ahead to even notice. Number 10. She doesn't know why she can't let go. She tells herself it's over, tries to rationalize it, tries to act unbothered. She might even convince everyone around her that she's fine, but deep down, she's not. Because there's something about you she can't shake, something she can't explain, a quiet weight that lives in the back of her mind, everywhere she goes. And the truth is, she doesn't even know why. It's not because you yelled, it's not because you begged. You didn't blow up her phone or leave her with some dramatic ending. You just shifted, slowly, calmly, permanently, and that shift created something far more powerful than pain. It created uncertainty, a psychological rift she can't close because she never saw it coming. You didn't give her a reason to hate you. You didn't give her closure she could cling to. You didn't give her an ending that made sense. You just went silent and evolved. And now she's left with questions that have no answers. Doubt that has no relief. Memories that feel unfinished. And the man she once thought she could always return to. Gone without a trace. That's the haunting part. She can't pin it on one thing. She can't point to a single moment and say, this is why it hurts. Because what really haunts her is the psychological shift, the change in energy, the emotional distance, the feeling that she lost something valuable before she even realized it was slipping. She'll move on, smile, post, distract. But deep down, there's a version of you she'll never forget, and a question she'll never answer. Why does this one still linger? She won't know, but you will, because silence is louder than closure, and the shift, that's what stays. She'll never admit it. She might not even understand it, but something inside her changed when you stopped chasing, when you stopped reacting, when you shifted. You didn't rage, you didn't beg, you didn't try to prove your worth. You just disappeared, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and became the version of yourself she never prepared for. She'll wonder why she can't forget you, why the silence feels heavier than the words ever did. It's not what you said, it's not even what you did, it's who you became, and the fact that she lost access to that man without even realizing it. And now, the shift you made quietly will haunt her loudly, not just because she lost you, but because she'll never fully understand why it still stings. If you're done being predictable, if you're ready to reclaim your power through silence and presence, hit that like button. Subscribe for more content that sharpens your mindset, and comment below. She lost access when I found peace. Thanks for watching Stoic Blessing, where we don't chase closure, we become it.